should any reasonable person disagree with that sentiment? The goals here are, one, to empower athletes to have rights associated with their name, image, and likeness. Two, we've heard about some of the shady deals going on, and so therefore put safeguards in place to protect these athletes in their NIL marketplace. And number three, preserve amateurism in college sports. Is there anything to disagree with there?
No. The question is, how do you implement that with getting enough people on board to actually push it through? I mean, in a perfect world, the NCAA would have gotten ahead of this, right? I mean, the NIL, I had somebody send me an email last week, basically using some language that I didn't appreciate, nor would anybody else, about this is what you get as if I made the decisions. College football's ruined thanks to expletive like you. This isn't NIL.
I wasn't sure I had your email address correct, but okay, I'm glad you got that.
What's going on is not NIL. This is not what it was ever supposed to be, and it already existed, mind you. We already had it in Olympic sports. It's not like this was unprecedented. If they implemented it correctly, it didn't have to go like this. What's going on right now is not NIL. It's not. It's lawlessness pay for play, which is never what it was supposed to be. But the people in charge didn't know what they were doing or chose not to do anything. Whatever they do, they have to find a way to make it true NIL, where you aren't, doing a 10-minute interview on Zoom for $200,000. And maybe that will still exist. I don't know. But that's not what this is. NIL is not what is currently going on. It's just pay for play. Unregulated pay for play. That's all this is.
And here's the complicated part, right? I mean, somebody has to decide what that 10-minute podcast interview is worth.
And maybe it is worth $100,000. I don't know. What needs to happen, and I don't even know how they do this.
I mean, at some level, right, it's worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Right. I mean, that is true. Right. Free market. As a principled capitalist, I can't argue against it. I can't, because it doesn't matter. It's not up to me. An appraiser may say that your house is worth $250,000. But ultimately, your house is what a buyer is willing to pay for it. I was talking to somebody the other day that their neighbor sold their house for $60,000 over what it was appraised for. So now the buyer has to bring extra cash to the table. That's how ridiculous the market is. But it doesn't matter. They waived inspections. They waived everything. It's insane. It doesn't make any sense. It's a very stupid investment for the buyer, but it doesn't matter because that's what the buyer is willing to overspend on this house. That's free market. It's not up to anybody to change that. They need to figure out a way to at least create the illusion of enforcing inducement. Whether it's you cannot engage in NIL until you have stepped foot in a classroom for the first time, which it's supposed to be the case, but I'm talking about converse. You can't have the conversation. Deal cannot be brokered. It cannot be discussed. Of course, it's going to behind the scenes, but publicly, you can't talk about it. And if you do, we'll use our $1 billion a year in revenue that we generate to hire some people to come after you. And we'll do what what they do in the NFL. This would rub some people the wrong way. We'll suspend you until we figure it out. So don't do it. If there is word that the Aggie Collective talked to this player from Atlanta about an NIL deal to go to Texas A&M, and we interviewed him and he was shaky, he's not playing until we figure it out. Not happening.
Yeah, you can't suspend a kid off of an allegation because goodness knows how that would work out.
Right. But if we do a little digging and it doesn't add up, you're not playing. Create the illusion of enforcement, of inducement, and stop all this. But how do you even do that? And how do federal lawmakers get involved and make that happen? I don't know. But that has got to be the way.
Hey, Dad, in related news, there is a new leader in the clubhouse for the coolest NIL deal so far.
Oh, yeah?
Are you familiar with the name Bijan Robinson?
I am.
Running back, University of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He tweeted, "When dreams turn into reality, I'm grateful. Thank you, Lamborghini ATX, for the partnership." He's got an NIL deal with Lamborghini of Austin. That's pretty
deal.
cool. It is.
Does he get free use of a car?
Yes, I'm assuming it's not to do radio spots for them and receive cash compensation. I'm assuming it's, hey, we're going to put you in a Lamborghini. I'm assuming. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
But that's what I'm led to believe based on Bijan Robinson's Twitter post there. Sitting in a black Lamborghini in the showroom at Lamborghini of Austin. Would you feel self-conscious driving a Lamborghini while in college?
I would feel self-conscious now. What are you talking about? Also,
I mean,
that's
maybe
probably a standard, so, you know.
Yeah, I suppose.
Wow, look at that vehicle. Incredible.
It's not terrible, is it?
No.
You think you can drive a standard transmission? Although even high-end sports cars are automatics now.
I tell you, though, if somebody bought me or gave me a Lamborghini, I would learn how to drive a standard to drive that thing around.
Yeah. Is that still on your bucket list of things to do? Learn how to drive a standard transmission?
It never was on my bucket list of things to do.
Nor will it be?
No, I don't see it happening.
Yeah. Let's
There's a couple people that have said, "Oh, you can't suspend somebody based on allegations. You can't do this. You can't do that." The NCAA has done that before. They haven't publicized it, but Dante Moncrief was shadow suspended until he could prove that his brother with 2 college degrees was able to afford his car. That happened.
It was not a Lamborghini, was it?
No, it was like an 09 Charger or something like that. Nice car. But a guy that owned a business and had 2 degrees had his brother's eligibility held over his head until he gave in to the NCAA's demands to prove that he bought his car. They've always operated like this. And I know the professionals are paid employees, which makes it darker, but Major League Baseball just suspended a guy who had his charges dropped. 2 years he's not allowed to play, even though they determined that they could not prove that he committed a crime. No, legally, he's all good. But baseball suspended him for 2 years. There is precedent for that kind of action.
But the commissioner of baseball, the commissioner of the NFL, has the power to do that. There's nobody in college athletics that has the power to do that other than the NCAA, who has basically been stripped naked of all of its power.
And as we like to say all the time, that punishment would have been collectively bargained in an agreement.
Right. Something has to be done, though.
Already agreed to it.
I don't know what, but just make them operate in the shadows again. Something has to be done, though. There was a camp that was run this summer, one of those recruiting camps that one of the sites puts on. And one of the guys running the camp said every single player, except for one, and he remembers it like this because the one player stood out, made reference to NIL as the first or second reason they were considering their favorite school or committed to their school.
So,
create the illusion that that's not reality. Something has to stop that from being the thing.
Do you blame them? Given the environment that we're in right now. If that's the only thing that decisions are being made of, then you're going to have a lot of disappointed people. You're going to find yourself in situations that are not great, playing for teams that you don't love, coaches that you don't love, if it's only based on NIL money.